This is Awareness Explorers.
Welcome back, fellow explorers, to Awareness Explorers. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Robinson. I'm with my friend and co-host,
Brian Tom O'Connor.
and it's one of those days where we get to interview someone that both Brian and I are aware of and have been curious and excited to talk to. Her name, and of course I'll probably butcher it, but we'll call it Kat van Oudheusden, is the author of several books on non-duality. She writes about how the joyful freedom of non-duality is available to us all, right here and right now. Her books explore how we can recognize our true nature by seeing the illusion of the separate self. And she shares free weekday reflections on Substack at Daily Non-Duality. Actually, I've been listening to those or reading those every day for a year, and I'm wondering who is this person behind that. And now we get to meet you. Hi, Kat. Good to have you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Very cool.
So we often like to start by finding out what the history of how you or what's left of you dove into non-duality and what your experience with being maybe a shift at some point.
Yeah, that can be a really, really long, boring story or a very short, easy one. So I'll go with the short one, and if you have more questions, let me know.
Okay.
But I basically spent my 30s depressed
Hmm.
and very, very unhappy about myself. And after lots of self-help, endless self-help, um, really self-help addict. I attended a Byron Katie School for the Work session. Something shifted there, and then fell with my nose into direct pointing non-duality books, sort of. There was this non-duality press at some point for a while, and I became their best customer of all time. I read everything that was published through non-duality press, and I didn't know why. So just something resonated, and I understood very little of what I read. Um, And the more direct the pointing, and there were people like John Wheeler and Salvador Poe who I read, where things just started to shift. And at a certain point, the reading stopped. There was much less reading, and a spontaneous form of inquiry started. And this was
Hmm.
often on my way home from work. I had a 4 kilometer walk. And just during that walk, the questions would start to appear and started undoing the me. And this wasn't a planned process, or it wasn't anything that I was really actively involved in. It just occurred.
Hmm.
And then it was 10 years, over the course of 10 years, my 40s, actually, all of my 40s, um, that I slowly noticed, often after the fact, that whole areas of the not of self, or things I considered my identity, were gone. They just disappeared. So where I thought, for example, where I thought I had a problem with my relationship with my mother, I couldn't find that in myself anymore. It was gone, and I didn't notice until I noticed that the issues with my mom were gone.
Hmm.
And there are many examples like that, until someone asked me not so long ago, a few months ago, um, how often do you think about yourself? And he was asking me that because he thought this was one of the signs of, seeing no self. And it was only then that I realized, must have been a year ago, that I realized, yeah, that is really something that changes. There are, for whatever reason, very little self-referencing thoughts. And when they do occur, it's like they're about someone else. They're totally boring.
Yeah. Yeah, I call my mind Bob because it does seem like he's a kind of a faraway person that is a little bit annoying. that that is sometimes like static in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I was listening to you talk, and also as I was reading on your website, you have a page titled "A Story." I had that uncanny feeling when I was reading that I had written it. So similar were our experiences. I mean, how you're trying to fix yourself and remove depression with self-help and how none of it worked till you stumbled on the direct path of non-duality, and how it kind of slowly started to make sense. I think a lot of people are awaiting a big, huge boom to happen, and I don't think that's always necessary. I think it happens for some people, but the fact that we're waiting for it sometimes gets in the way. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Since I've spoken to so many people helping them with inquiry, and you have as well in all these podcasts, it seems to be very different for different people. For some, it's instantaneous and a big shift from the psychological stuff they were stuck in. So when that immediately falls away, it's a huge difference. And for others, it's a slow erosion
Mhm.
Mm,
process. And you, for me, it was that way. I barely noticed that it was going on.
mm. You mentioned self-help, and both Brian and I explored some self-help, me probably more than him. Um, and I'm wondering what the relationship is between self-help and say non-duality. For some people, it might be a stepping stone, but also kind of reinforces the self. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Self-help is bullshit.
Yay!
Oh, you're going to get Brian to love you now, and he's been waiting for somebody to say that.
Okay, self-help is bullshit.
So you don't think it can ever be like a step towards moving into non-duality or spirituality?
Um, so it depends who you're talking to. Ultimately, there are no steps.
Hmm.
So, and there is no path, and there is no getting to something.
Well, you just
So,
kind of undermine self-help pretty well there.
yeah, but that doesn't mean that for the people who are currently using self-help, that it isn't useful.
Hmm.
So just like, I don't know, taking a shower is useful to become cleaner.
Hmm.
It has effects and it does things to the psychology. And so, yeah, maybe there were times where I, at least in that situation, believed that the self-help I was doing was helpful. Ultimately, was it? I don't know. I can't really judge that, but
Hmm.
it doesn't lead to what we're looking for.
Hmm. Um, yeah, my old teacher used to say, being happy is actually helpful in some ways for non-duality because you have less baggage, but being unhappy is helpful in a lot of ways because then you're more motivated.
Yeah, this is crazy. This goes on and on, us trying to reverse engineer the path.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay, the Buddha sat under a tree, so let's all go sit under a tree, and Jesus did this and my neighbor did that. And the interesting thing now is that because so many people are speaking about this, the variety of paths or no paths is becoming much more obvious. And I think that is a really good thing because it's starting to show us that there is no path, or put differently, there are 8 billion paths,
Mhm.
and your life is the path. So whatever it is that is going on for you, that is the exact path you're supposed to be on because it is your life.
So how does one make use of, I like the term, your life is your path, but how does that look in terms of practicalities? What do you mean by that?
Well, again, we think in terms of, oh, I am on my path and I have my life and I am doing it. And the whole point is that there is no one there doing it. It is unfolding, it is happening, your life is living you, if you will. And
Hmm.
so we don't have to think about it at all. We don't have to do a specific practice to make use of it. We don't have to figure that out. It is doing itself. And one of the things I really enjoy is telling people, because I missed that when I was in those 10 years, is telling people the fact that you are interested in this, the fact that you are listening to this podcast or reading this book, or even considering some of these questions, that is this unfolding through you. That's it. And of course, it will be frustrating, 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 or for some people, happy, 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 and then it's done. That is, it's like that. It has to be that way
Hmm. Hmm.
because otherwise you'd already be done now.
In your
Brian,
book,
where are your thoughts?
well, I really loved your books Beyond Illusion and Seeing No Self. And in the book Beyond Illusion, you wrote that Chris Neubauer suggests that the self is a mirage born from mistaking our thoughts as our identity. And I never thought of my thoughts as my identity. But there is one of the illusions that really was a hard one for me, which is the illusion of corporeality. The idea I'm the body. Are different people more susceptible to different ones of the six?
Yeah, people are seem to be more stuck with some things than others, and it depends a bit on their core beliefs and the things they've experienced in life, I think.
Hmm.
But that's just my fantasy trying to explain it. The one that gets everyone is the volition. So, and we bring this onto the spiritual path and into our interest in non-duality. So we are absolutely convinced that we do our lives, or at least some part of it, or maybe I'm willing to say a very, very small part of it. I'll go down to almost nothing, but I will not give up the sense that I control something, even if it's just my next interest in non-duality, or, it can get really, really small, but I will not give it up because giving it up is giving up the self.
Yeah, I've seen that stickiness in me. What is the alternative? That the universe is unfolding, that life is unfolding? How do you think of that?
The alternative to the self is unfolding the self.
That I have agency. When you start to see that that's actually an illusion. First, it's an illusion on a couple levels. There is no I, and there is no agency.
Yes, there is no I to have agency, but there is something that looks like agency.
Yeah.
So at the level of believing in the self, if we believe we're separate selves, then it looks like, and we can argue for a very long time in favor of the fact that we have volition and agency. That's what it looks like, just
Yeah.
like we see the color red or we see the color green. That's how we're wired.
Hmm.
So it's not that it doesn't look like, that we're all stupid and we're just being led astray. No, that's really what it looks like. But this has no separate agent in it that causes things to happen to this body. It doesn't cause the words to be spoken or thoughts to be thunk or whatever. Um, it's just moving like any other biological organism, like the whole organic system that we're in and the rest of the universe. So it's just one, I don't know, crazy unfolding mass, crazy dancing universe without a separate, nothing that you can cut off from the rest of it and say, this is my little island of volition, and here is the beginning. Here's where I get to do stuff. I'm in control here. And then the
Uh-huh.
rest of the universe begins. It's just not there.
Yeah. Do you, some people might call that God unfolding or just a life unfolding. Do you have any way of viewing that?
I've experimented with all of them. And there's so many names, and they all lead to the subject-object problem. So even if we
Uh-huh.
go to awareness or presence or being, or, and I cycle through all of them in my posts in the hope of making it less sticky, which is, of course, hopeless. But as soon as we give it a name, we have now become the subject to that object. So it automatically creates a split. Even if we then try to tell ourselves there is no split, it's the I that's believing that there is no split. It's really we're completely stuck.
It's very tricky as long as we're using language, there's always going to be a dualistic aspect.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
yes. And that's why talking or writing about this is actually impossible.
But you do a great job. For somebody who finds it impossible, I want to read like a daily thing because what happens. You're in Germany, I'm in California, so every morning I get to read amongst my 50 emails that are talking to Jonathan, and Jonathan needs to respond. I need this reminder that there is no Jonathan there. So I'm just going to choose the one from today and read it because I find them very, very good. And they're important reminders because I get pretty lost in this character. He's very charming, I think. But
Can I
this
interrupt you for just a second?
sure, sure.
You're now splitting yourself in two.
Mm,
There's now you and there's your character. So now you've got two yous.
right. And it's hard to use language, and language tricks me into that to some extent.
Yes.
How might one get free of that while talking?
One can't.
You're taking away all my hope.
Well, I remember my one of my teachers was Locke Kelly, and I remember at one of his meetings he said, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here,"
Yeah.
Yes,
because
yes.
Yeah,
hope is
abandon
future based. Go ahead.
exactly. Or just abandon the one who has hope. That's enough.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. This reminds me of a quote in your book where you said teaching non-duality would be like teaching how to drink water. And just the other day, a similar analogy popped into my head. Using the analytical mind to experience your non-dual nature is like studying physics to become a better tennis player.
Yeah. And even I mean, this evolves all the time for me, but even as you're saying that, to experience your non-dual nature
Yeah,
creates the idea that it is yours,
that's right. Yeah,
right? And that it is a personal thing. And that's not because you're trying to say it that way. That's because our ears just hear it that way.
that's right. That's right. I could say our non-dual nature or the non-dual nature or just reality or all there is or
Yeah. And even that wouldn't help because whoever is listening hears it through the filter of the belief in the separate self.
right, right, right. Well, it reminds me, I mean, there is sort of a while ago, a couple of episodes ago, we had a episode about the inward facing path and the outward facing path. You summarized that pretty well. You said what we're realizing what we're not. That's the via negativa. And then we're realizing what we are. This is the via contemplativa. And you also had a really nifty chart illustrating these. And I always thought that one has to be followed by the other, in that you have to look and say, what all your ideas of what you are, and see that they're not what you are because there's something larger that you can't put words to that knows that. But then after that, when you sort of have to look out through the world and start re-including everything as not as you as well. It seems like you feel this way too.
Yes, except that this doesn't have to be done by anyone. So again, it's felt like, and well, the more the most people I speak to, they have gone straight to the awareness junkie stuff.
Yeah.
So they've kind of substituted their monotheistic cultural background, and what they hear is there is me and there is something higher that I can become or see or realize, and that is awareness. And it is me that is going to go into awareness. So the self, the separation and the self is taken onto that journey. So most people I speak to, they need to really go into the what I am not, to the via negativa first,
Hmm.
because otherwise, just as we're speaking now and we're noticing it again and again, everything, the self is always there, just subtly in the background, taking on everything as its personal project plan. So, oh, there are two vias. Okay, now I'm going to do both, and I need to do that one first. And then it's always micromanaging life. And that's just thinking going on and belief in that thinking. So it's not sticky, it's not difficult, but it is there and we don't see it, and that's the problem.
Yeah, what I like about your daily non-dual writings and how you're speaking here is that you notice all the subtle ways that we create a sense of self through language, through our thinking, and you kind of nicely, quote, attack that. I want to give people an example of this because this is after something goes through their emails. I won't say I. But as these emails are happening and there's something responding, I come upon your email that is a good reminder of some other point of view. And so here's the one from today. I can't find anyone doing the writing of these words, although words are being written. I can't find a thinker who is making the accompanying thoughts appear. I can't find the one who made the body wake up again this morning. I can't find any mechanism by which this organism is controlled. I can't find an owner of this seemingly very personal life. I can't find anyone to whom this awareness belongs. I can't find a separate self from the rest of being. I can't find a location or center to me anywhere. I can't find an inside separate from outside. I can't find what is referred to as me. I can't find anything at all, as there is no I to find. And that's like a slap in the face of every thought and volitional thinking I might have. And I'm wondering, uh, is it helpful to try to create I'll call it a non-dual language, although that's an oxymoron, that can get us out of this stuckness of our beliefs of this I into an awareness of how things, say, actually are?
I don't know. It could be helpful for some people because that's what they need. I read a lot, so for
Yeah.
me it was definitely helpful, apparently, I think, to read all of that direct non-dual language that was, yeah, in a way written in a way that was more direct than the other things that were on offer. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Maybe we can get even more direct. Maybe we can, we'll see.
Hmm.
Maybe that's evolving.
Now, you did use inquiry. I'm wondering I mean, there's Byron Katie inquiry, there's Harshi inquiry, there's 31 flavors of inquiry. What one did you find most helpful for you?
Well, I learned most from Salvador Poe's books,
Uh,
but they were actually I read those when I was already doing that spontaneously. So he kind of completed the process after the fact almost. I went through his book and he explains very, very clearly many of these inquiries, but they're old. I mean, this is the neti neti process that has been described long ago. I'm not an expert on the history or where things were first written, but I know that this is very, very old and part of the original Advaitin text. Um, so you look at what you're not. And that's what I try to do in the book Seeing No Self, is to break that up into 6 areas that we can look at that we're not. Because if you just tackle who am I or what am I, um, for most people that's not enough hand holding. And I mean that in the best possible way. It's just too much, and our brains are so overactive, we need to chop it up and slow it down and go level by level. So I am not my thoughts. I am not the body. I am not the sense of self. I am not inside versus outside. All of these different layers. And then what am I? And all of these to
mm,
me are part of inquiry. And um, they don't have to go in a certain order, but I found with guiding all these people that it is usually helpful to do them in the order I have them in the book, for example.
mhm,
Yeah, in your book, Seeing No Self, you have a set of 33 essential inquiries, and
Yeah.
these are very dear to my heart because it seems they're practical. It's not so much that for me that they are directing us to find a conceptual answer, but they're helping us turn our attention inward to
Yes.
what's noticed in
Yes.
experience.
And to me, the first the neti neti one. So neti means just not this, not that. Not this, not this. Um, the negative ones, those are sort of they're still conceptual. They're the mind sort of playing around with itself, which comes close to those awareness games. Um, so I hope always that people can approach them in a playful way. On the other hand, when I did them, I was not feeling playful at all. This was very serious. So I'm totally fine with people not having fun. Um, but they are really playful because it's playing with these concepts of what we believe, and we've just believed that for so many years. We take it for granted now. We think it's true. But it's the mind questioning itself. So in that sense, I would say Byron Katie's inquiry is even before that. It's sort of playing around with the thoughts and beliefs, which is the first of those levels that I go through. Um, but it gets much more subtle because, for example, we have this. this sense of being a self. There's even when we do the inquiry, who am I or what am I? Well, me, this sense of self. And then many people get stuck there. It's just like a loop. It goes, yeah, who am I? Me. Who am I? Me. This is not getting anywhere. Um, so there are inquiries to do about the sense of self that open that up. For example, is that always there? Do you always feel
Mm.
like a self? And if you just think about that for a little while, it's like, well, no, when I'm absorbed in an activity, there's no sense of self. And we can go on and on. So just looking at that is a step that a lot of these other approaches that I've read, I don't know, they seem to not go there or miss it, or it's not important to the person who wrote the book who probably didn't need that in their approach.
Hmm. Yeah, you in a certain way, you have a step-by-step approach to the stepless. And I like that because I think that can be helpful for a lot of people. And there's a sense that in different categories of life, there's also more or less sense of self. Like a lot of people identify with their work or their relationship. Do you have a way of, do you classify in those types of categories, or is it more neti in a more like thoughts and body type of conception?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't go by area of life. It's more by from more obvious or more, yeah, to more and more subtle.
Hmm. Hmm.
So most people, they can start with I am not my thoughts, and they can go there quite quickly.
Uh-huh.
Um, then it gets tricky.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, what do you do for work? Is this part of your livelihood, or do you do other things?
Apparently, I write and I talk to people.
Uh-huh.
I also run a community, so that's that's one thing that's sort of the other side of what I do is bringing people together who are starting to or who re already write or teach or coach or do something with the non-dual message. Um, and that's part of what we were discussing earlier, that I feel that it's really, really helpful for people to hear different versions of this.
Hmm.
And less and less formal teaching or formal paths or schools, and more, look, this is how it happened for me. This is how I express it, how I try to word it. And it sounds totally different. And I use different terminology and language than, that guy over there, but we're pointing to the same thing. And it's useful for people to hear because of our different belief sets and conditioning. We resonate with different things. So if someone starts talking about love and beauty and truth and compassion, I'm gone. I'm out of the room.
Screw that.
Yeah,
Why is that?
I don't know. It's my conditioning. It annoys me. So if that's the non-dual path, they're telling me to get on, it's like be compassion or be love, or whatever. It doesn't.
I know exactly what you mean because I remember a long time ago I was investigating the practice of loving kindness. And
Yes.
there were times when I said, well, damn it, I honestly don't feel loving or kind right now. And
Yeah.
what helped me was when I sat down to meditate and I realized the reason I was meditating was to change what I was feeling,
Yeah.
to turn grumpiness into love or to turn anxiety into, or to get back something that happened 2 days ago. And as soon as those were dropped, it's sort of like something kind of reveals itself by itself.
Yes. And this is the sort of my non-political political agenda for non-duality is to democratize the whole thing,
Mm.
and to stop this. Well, we have a very elitist school, which is, I've seen something you haven't seen, and now sit at my feet until you get it, and I will slowly teach you. Not, I mean, I'm saying this in a very derogatory way, but that's not how these people feel. They're really trying to help. So I'm sorry for that. That's not wasn't very fair. Although there are those who are not doing it in such a beautiful way.
Yeah,
Um,
Brian calls them the non-duality police.
yes, the non-duality police show up under my posts as well, and I've met them in person. Uh, but so I think we've done a disservice. Well, it's not a disservice. It's just the way it is right now. That there's too much of this belief that there is this one path, and I just need to find it, and that is going to bring me to what I'm looking for.
Hmm.
And we
Yeah,
have then a whole buffet, and it's like you have to sample everything. Um, but I will be very annoyed if you go sample his stuff because I know that I have the true teaching. And I find this so strange for people who are teaching or sharing the non-dual message that there is this type of competition and negative stuff going on. I don't understand because to me, it's the more ways we have of expressing this message and sharing it, the better. I mean, this
yeah.
is what we want. We want to share our joy. So why does it matter? Why would I keep it to myself or my little group of followers or whatever it is I'm doing?
Yeah, that's why it seems that your approach is more agile because whatever someone comes to you with, you have a whole variety of pointers or questions or inquiries that can help them, and some are good for some people and some for others.
And that's the first thing I'll tell them, that it is possible that you cannot hear what I'm telling you. I mean, not hear it in the sense of it's frustrating to you or it doesn't resonate. Then please go sample the rest of the buffet.
Yeah.
And I'll point you to the I'll point you to the dessert aisle or whatever it is you want to go. But there's so much on offer and something you need to find something that is where you are now, wherever that is, and
Hmm.
not in
Yeah.
a hierarchical sense, in a landscape sense. If you're over in the Rocky Mountains, you do not need the desert.
Right.
Yeah, I tell clients I work with that I do have a very definite spiritual belief, and that is you should do what works for you. But we can't create a religion around that, unfortunately. I've been in a lot of different
Fortunately.
groups. I've
Yes.
been in a lot of groups and different religious orientations, and the one thing that they have in common is that they all think that they're the best and that they're the only one, possibly. But obviously, that's a product of mind. In going beyond that, you mentioned the book Salvador Poe. Who I'm not familiar with him. Can you say a little bit about this person?
Salpo is, yeah, he lives in India now. He's an ex long time ago rock star. He just published his journey in a book, his spiritual journey. Um, I can't do him justice if I try to summarize that. But he would I don't even think he would call himself a teacher. He shares about non-duality very much in the spirit of what we're talking about now.
Uh-huh.
And he's very focused on direct inquiry. Um, so he was very, very helpful to me through his books. I've never met him, never spoken to him, but I recommend him all the time because he's so clear. However, and that's nothing against Sal, he has a particular vibe. And that is still, that is very much the Indian satsang vibe. And some people can't handle that and can't hear that, but they are interested in non-duality. So they should go somewhere else.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I've watched a lot of his videos on YouTube and enjoyed them a lot. And yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people who just have, yeah, different styles, different ways of talking, different vibes, and some people think this teacher is too intellectual, and some people think this person is too much entrenched in the ancient wisdom. And but it's what resonates with you. It's what opens for
Yes.
you.
And actually, I don't think teaching in that sense is even the right verb anymore. It's
Yeah.
it's more really the original meaning of satsang, coming together in truth and sharing
Mhm.
whatever is true for us right now and investigating that.
You wrote, for many of us, inquiry will bring up some fear. And although it has never done that for me, but a lot of people have talked to me about it. So I was wondering if you have any tips of how to help people when that happens. Like sometimes it's a fear of disappearing, and sometimes it's a fear of, and this one I've heard a lot, of becoming cold and uncaring.
Yeah, and many, many other variations. The ego
Yeah.
is, does a really good job. Its job is keeping you safe. So now we're splitting it in two again. So it doesn't really make sense. But um, do I have, yeah, so knowing fear is going to come up is already very helpful. And then for me, it's always, we have fear in many areas of our lives. I fear going to the dentist and I go to the dentist anyway.
Mhm.
So it doesn't mean anything. It is not, unless really your house is burning down or there is a reason to be afraid. It's just helpful to know that it is something that is going to occur. It's psychology. It is not what is really true. It is the natural process of inquiry is going to bring up some fear. And I spent 3 days on my living room floor in the fetal position, um, just consumed by fear.
Oh.
But it passed. And the weird thing is like fear is like pain. You're in the middle of it and it's happening and you're thinking, oh, this is so horrible, but you're dealing with it fine.
Mhm.
You're still breathing, you're still alive. It's really strange.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like what I call, and a lot of other people call, I didn't invent this term, the second arrow. And the first arrow is the fear, and the second arrow is the idea it shouldn't be there.
Yeah, yeah.
And that sometimes is worse.
Yeah, and it's the same. So the fear, the frustration, the I'm not getting it, the idea that there are glimpses, all of these different things we have with getting this, knowing that these are normal and that they are actually the path itself is so helpful. It's not
Mhm.
that you're doing it wrong, it's that you're doing it right. If there's no frustration and no fear, then I'd be worried.
Yeah, for a long time, I was in a spiritual community where the teacher did a lot of focus on what could be called purification. We lived together, there was a lot of feedback, a lot of honesty about uh, things that you were doing that were inharmonious. What do you think of that path versus what could be called the direct awakening path? And um, it seems to me that people who do the direct awakening path, calling it that, uh, they often skip over all these aspects of their life that cause them and other people trouble.
If they are skipping over that, then the self is still there.
Hmm.
So don't know how to put that more clearly. Um, it's
Do
really the whole
do
question of bypassing.
yeah, do in your experience as you awakened, we'll call it, did a lot of the uh, challenging parts of your personality perhaps naturally fall away?
No, I doubt it. I mean, I think my
We'll
personality
ask
is
your
just as
friends.
challenging. Yeah, but it's no longer challenging to me.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Because there is no me. Yeah.
So, um, to have the issue of bypassing, there is something that must be being bypassed. This is already includes the judgment, right? This is like saying there's some area of your life you need to deal with, you know, deal with this area of your life because this is not good.
Yeah.
All of this is already like the opposite of non-duality.
Hmm.
Because you're not accepting what is, you're not looking at what is. So I think Rupert Spira says that. He says direct inquiry is actually bypassing, and that's how it should be. Because if you're not bypassing, you're going into all of this emotional stuff that isn't even about anyone. And then if you ask three people about your character, you will get three different answers. So
Hmm.
the person who thinks you need to be dealing with this and not bypassing it, the other person will tell you, what are they talking about? I don't see that. So this is endless. This is psychology. It's
Uh-huh.
the carousel of psychology.
But sometimes those aspects that manifest can give you and other people a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's what it means to be a human in this world.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Well,
I mean, Jonathan and I have had this basic argument for many,
for
many
7
years.
years now.
And the only way I can sort of resolve it in my mind, and still remain friends with Jonathan, which we are very deeply, um, is that for me, when I stopped trying to fix myself, the
Yes.
whole world opened. The reality opened. The depression dissolved away. The love just sort of arose naturally, and bliss and happiness. But that was because I believed I was fundamentally flawed.
Yep.
And and not trying to fix that flaw was this huge relief. But Jonathan probably thought he was wonderful and perfect and maybe needed taking down a peg.
Yeah, it depends where you start. You know, what's the appropriate direction to get to something, the center, we'll call it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even, I mean, even if I'm completely a narcissistic, arrogant person, if I see that there is no one there, I mean, I don't know a quicker way to undo my narcissism than to see that there is no one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so to me, the solution is always seeing no self. It is
Hmm.
always, it starts and it ends there. And then all these other questions about bypassing, about doer, being the doer, volition, free will, even how do I get to awareness or how do I see oneness? It's all gone.
Mhm. I love how you boil it down and bring it back to that. I think it's beautiful.
Hmm.
It's the unpopular version. So I don't get hate mail, but it sometimes borders on hate mail because it is really, people do not want the no self thing because all of the associations in our culture with that, it's only the belief system that gets triggered. Oh, nihilism. Oh, I will spend my life on the couch. Um, and they're convinced that this is the consequence of seeing no self.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. And I'm wondering though, how, as this developed in you, excuse the language, uh, um, how your experience of life altered or changed.
Yeah, here we go.
Like you mentioned that you don't think about your non-self a lot.
Yeah, so let's try a tangible list this time. I no longer worry about who I am, my character, my
Uh-huh.
personality. So I don't worry about bypassing things, for example. I don't care what people think about me.
Uh-huh.
Um, I no longer have psychological issues. I had an obsessive compulsive disorder for a very long time, skin picking, very, very bad, gone. I rarely to never think about the past or a future. It's just not interesting. Um, when thoughts come up, uh, which is quite frequently, there are lots of thoughts. If they're about me, I'm not even interested. If they're about, this character, it's like it's like a soap opera playing, on TV. It's just like no interest. Not even, I don't know how, it's like the most uninteresting thing you can serve up. Um, I still dislike people and like people,
Hmm.
but it doesn't bother me. I have annoying traits. They don't bother me. I do not like my mother-in-law. It doesn't bother me that I don't like her.
Hmm.
So you stop making yourself into a problem to fix. They're just the self is the idea of the self, the identity is the cause of so much suffering, suffering in the sense of problems. That's completely gone. So that's like 98% of your daily energy is now free to just write daily non-duality posts
And B.
and be. But even being, I mean, that's so overhyped.
Uh-huh.
It's like now we're all going to just be. You were already just being. I mean, it's not something you need to figure out. I love this, I love this the way we anything, we take it and we make it into a project. It's like we are
Mhm.
project neuroticists.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just be. Okay, let me figure out how to do being. Be present, be in the now, do this, do that, and it all becomes the next thing to do.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
idea, the understanding that things are happening, there is no doer to needed to make them happen. You can stop them from happening if you tried.
You're not giving us a place to stand, Kat.
Good.
Yay.
But I but this is also just what happens. Okay, so
uh,
people think there is a spiritual path, they get on it, they then, walk this path in whatever form it takes for them. They suffer under it, they get frustrated, they love it, they play awareness games, they don't. All of that just happens. And that's the way it is. And so that's part of the fun of it, or part of the movie, that we're all enjoying. And some are enjoying it more than others because some take it more seriously than others.
In one of your videos, you talked about, it was actually an interview that I watched on YouTube. It was a short one. And I'm not sure exactly how to word this, but I got the impression that one can experience oneself and others as separate and at the same time know that you're not separate. So I find that helpful because I have this idea that the experience of a separate person needs to go away.
Yeah, no, this is a big one, and it's
mm,
absolutely not true.
Right.
And this is where Beyond Illusion is really was helpful for me as well, because I wrote these books for myself, obviously. Um,
mm,
and or to cut off, to put something to get be done with something. Um, and Donald Hoffman with his the scientist with his analogy of the headset. So the way humans in this embodied whatever this is, this experience, we experience separation. And the goal of the spiritual path sounds like it's to get rid of that. And then we will see only oneness and we will all, I don't know, it's like some permanent group hug or something. Um, I don't I don't know everything, but I doubt that is going to happen because so there can be the knowing that this is just one. This is obviously this is it's easier in the negative that there is
yeah.
nothing separate from anything else. So this body and that and there is no border to any of it. But at the same time, of course, it feels like I am separate. I experience in this location. I don't experience over there. It doesn't seem that way. Space and time are baked into the experience. So we would need a completely different human organism to,
Would you say that in your moment to moment experience, that there's a continuum from play acting separateness to really not having any sense of separateness, or are both happening at the same time?
I don't, so obviously I only know my own or this experience, and um the only way I can describe it is as Brian just said it. So the experience is just as it was before,
Hmm.
and I experienced it like, different bodies apart from each other and different things. And there is a absolutely doubtless knowing that that is not the way it really is.
Hmm.
That's just the way it looks. And this is exactly like the mirage in the desert. So I know for a fact that there is no water there, but it looks exactly like water the way it did before. I knew that there was no water.
Mhm.
So both things seem to be happening at the exact same time.
Yeah, they're both there. Yeah,
Hmm.
Mhm.
just as
Yeah.
I can speak about a self and speak like a normal person and don't need to do crazy things, and at the same time know that it is a useful fiction.
Hmm.
Yeah, for me, it was a sense that the idea of the Brian as a separate entity, instead of going away, got demoted to just another appearance along with sights, sounds, smells,
Yeah,
other people,
yeah, that's a good
trees.
one. Yeah, so it's like we see I mean the classic examples are we see a blue sky even though when you go in there there's no blue, but it continues to look blue even long after you figured out that there is no blue there. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same.
Hmm. Any last questions, Brian, or any last things for you to say, Kat, that might not have been covered? First of all, I really appreciate it. I like the style of I'll call it whatever carpet you're standing on, you will generally tuck it out from under them and see what happens. And I think that needs to be more of that. Maybe people often think of spirituality as being really open and loving and sweet, but there's this other aspect which is we're always deluding ourselves, and pointing that out uh, in the more subtle ways is really a helpful way of approaching this.
I to me the key is this, and I keep coming back to it, is no self. And not
Yeah.
that there is no it's seeing the illusion of the self. The illusion doesn't go away, but if we don't really see through it, we take it into everything we do. So I think we touched on that many times during this conversation. No matter what understanding we seem to get, it's the self that thinks that it got the understanding, and it becomes the next thing to do.
Yeah, it's so subtle and so insidious that it can be hard to see unless somebody like you is directly pointing to it in its specific.
But
Yeah,
after a
or
while, oh, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say that I think another thing that's really important to me personally when I share this is this talk of it is difficult to see, and it is very subtle and or painful or frustrating or all these other things the sort of war stories we hang on in, it's like
Uh-huh.
um I find myself doing that as well sometimes, and
Uh-huh.
I wish I could catch myself more often because it's not difficult. I think
Right.
the other message, it's so bloody obvious. It is so
Yeah.
simple. It is already the case. It is this, and I think that needs to be heard a lot as well.
Yeah, because that's a story that is also from the self and also paints a picture. And you're right. It's like, it's air. It's not that hard to breathe. It's happening all the time.
Yeah.
I think you made Brian very happy because he loves some of the things that you say, and I imagine that's how you're feeling, Brian.
I am feeling happy, although I stopped realizing that, or I stopped thinking that my happiness depends on something else. In other words, I was already happy, but let's say even happier that Kat could come on and talk to us about all of this. And also, I wanted to say that I really appreciate that the two of the books that you have written that I read are very good for different approaches because the seeing no self is very good just to give people the opportunity to try it for themselves and to look inside. And Beyond Illusion has a lot of scientific study behind it for the people for whom that kind of thing might be helpful or necessary. And you quote a lot of our my favorites like Donald Hoffman and Bernardo Kastrup, and so I appreciate that as well.
Thank you.
So how can people sign up for your daily non-duality or learn about your stuff more specifically?
Well, there's my website, which has the links to everything, which is Kat Oudheusden, if you can spell it, .com. Uh, maybe it'll be in the notes somewhere.
It will be. It
We'll
will
put a
be.
Okay.
link in the show notes.
Yeah, so that really has everything because that has the link to sign up for Substack and it has the three books and whatever stuff is happening, if anything, is there. So
Great, great. And if people want to support Awareness Explorers, they can go to patreon.com/awareness explorers. We always give you lots of extra stuff for supporting us. Any last thoughts, Brian or Kat?
My only thought is gratitude. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us so generously.
yeah, thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it because it's particularly helpful to people with my style of always finding some new way to create a self and a project, which this thing moving through me seems to do that pretty consistently, and having the rug pulled out uh, feels free.
Mm.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, free is my favorite word.
Uh-huh. And hopefully we're helping our listeners do that. If you like what we're doing, pass it on to your friends and family. And until next time, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Thank you for listening to Awareness Explorers. To learn more, you can check out our website at awarenessexplorers.com. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. We'd love it if you would post a review. And please share our link on Facebook and with family and friends, because knowing yourself as awareness is the greatest gift you can give yourself or someone you love.